Hey, everybody, welcome to this episode of Compassion and Courage Conversations in Healthcare. I'm your host, Marcus Engel, and this is the podcast where we teach compassionate communication, provide perspective, and inspire resilience. And today I have the honor of welcoming my friend, Dr. Rachel Phelps, to Compassion and Courage. Rachel, thank you so much for being on the program.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. It's such an honor to be here.
Yeah, it's good to see you again. It's
Yeah.
I can't remember exactly how we met, but I do remember sitting in a restaurant with you and discussing sports
Yes,
at a conference. Which conference was that at? Was that simulation?
it was. It was in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Wisconsin. A couple
Yeah,
summers ago. Yeah, you were the ending speaker. So, and I had reread your books and reached out to you. So,
you had already read my books at that point. Good,
yes,
good.
a couple
So
times. Yeah. So,
okay, well, good. Well, thank you for making that connection, and glad that you're a part of my life now.
yes.
So I have to ask you, and I think I already know the answer to this question, but what's the most exciting thing going on in your life right now?
Well, I just adopted a 14-year-old boy from Colombia, South America. So I stay quite busy and appreciate you allowing me some extra months to get with you again. But yeah, we're adjusting well to living together, and we finally started school about a month ago, and all the fun motherhood things of having a teenager.
Yeah, well, exciting. We're wishing both of you a long, happy, loving life together.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Yeah, good stuff. Good stuff. So as we talk about on the program here, I introduce you as Dr. Rachel Phelps, but can you give us your all of your credentials, and please don't skip over anything because it's the bio is better coming from the horse's mouth than coming from me. So can you give us a little bit of your credentials and bio?
Sure, yeah, no problem. You can call me Rachel. I do have several different degrees and a couple of different certifications. Have been very blessed to really pursue this professional field of nursing and learn a lot along the way in my short time. I've been a nurse since 2013. When I graduated with my bachelor's, and then decided to go straight in to get my master's degree in nursing administration, and got that in 15. And then went on to get my postmaster's in nursing education and kind of felt the Lord calling me to teach. Got that in 2018. And then had this crazy idea to go back one more time for a doctorate, and graduated from Stanford University in 2021 and have just been kind of plugging along ever since. My doctorate's in nursing administration and nursing education. So was happy to find that program that kind of met both of my goals. And then my certifications are in certified nurse educator in clinical area specifically. So taking students to clinical and kind of what that looks like with their hospital setting. And then I also have my CHESI, which is my simulation certification. So done a few things and enjoyed the journey. So
Good. And so with all of this background and degrees in nursing, how do you put those to use? What do you do in your professional life?
so right now, I am an assistant professor and simulation director at High Point University in kind of the middle part of North Carolina, middle of the state. And so I get to use both my administrative background, kind of as a director and looking at like our budget and purchasing and kind of knowing our budget for the year in terms of purchase a lot of supplies. I spend a good bit of our budget money on mannequins and technology and keeping those things running for our students, as well as getting to use the education side and getting to be in the classroom as well and teaching our students in the classroom. So kind of
And
put both loves together. So.
and your program at High Point, the nursing program at High Point, is fairly new, right?
Correct. Yes. So we will be graduating our second class of seniors in May, and so we're excited about that. And we've got our third cohort of juniors currently in our program. So we'll start cohort number 4 in the fall, and we're really excited to see the growth that's come from it.
Excellent. And I understand you're using some of my books or videos or something in coursework too. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to. So I was introduced to your books at my previous institution where I taught before I came to High Point, and fell in love with all of them. I've read everything, but I do. I was teaching fundamentals for the first couple years of our program, which is one of the first classes our students take, and I introduced your podcast and your books then, and I've actually found a video clip of you speaking at a graduation. So I kind of like incorporated that into my fundamentals class. Like, yeah, you're just now starting, but here's where you're going to be in a couple more years. And then I bring it back together for them when they're seniors in my seminar class, where we talk about narrative medicine. And you've spoken, and we'll come back again hopefully this year for us. But we read both The Other End of the Stethoscope and I'm Here. And we have book discussions around that. And then I actually have them write on the prompt that you give your pre-med students to describe a time when somebody or when they, as a student, have had somebody to touch their lives. So
Well, I'm so glad that you've adopted that. And
thank
I
you.
guess that gets to a question too. Let's go back to your beginning. What got you into this field of nursing? Were you always attracted to nursing, or did you come from a nursing family?
I did not. I am one of the first few people, I guess, that chose the healthcare route. And I'm definitely the first in my immediate family and still remain that way. I had a great aunt who, Aunt Sue, she was a nurse and she was a fabulous nurse. She actually was one of the first graduates from the nurse anesthesia program here in Winston-Salem at Wake Forest Baptist, or Wake Forest University, tied to the hospital, Wake Forest Baptist. And so she was a big inspiration for me when I was young. And at about 4 years of life, I decided I wanted to be a nurse and be like her. And so I just kind of ran with it and learned as much as I could from her while she was still on earth. And she pursued, poured into me as a young kid and then helped me through college and my first master's before she passed in 2016. So,
And you read something. I read something in one of your job forms that said that you have dedicated each of your degrees to a special person, and that Aunt Sue was was the dedicee. Is that a word?
mhm.
It is now of one of your degrees.
Yes, that is correct. So, my bachelor's, I dedicated to my parents. They poured and continue to pour a lot into my life, but definitely through my younger years. And that first nursing hump of a degree is very challenging. That bachelor's is hard. And so I dedicated that one to them. And then my second one, my first master's, I dedicated to my great grandmother. And then my postmasters I dedicated to Aunt Sue because I always thought she would make a great nursing professor. And she kind of inspired me to go back. I always thought she would have really great stories for her students, but nursing physically took a toll on her body. So that was something she was never able to pursue. And so I try to carry on that legacy for her. And then my final degree I dedicated to my uncle who passed away from brain cancer.
It's that's such a neat practice. I'd never thought about that of dedicating a degree or a certification to someone who inspired you along the way. I'm gonna have to keep that in mind.
Yeah, it was I may not pursue cancer oncology type nursing, but I told my uncle that I might touch a student's life that goes on to pursue something with oncology. So I always try to find a reason to keep myself going to finish the degree. So
Yeah, yeah. Well, and you've had to find a lot to keep going through all of those degrees.
yes, that's correct. So,
Nice, nice. So with that reflection about, a time that someone was there for you or that you were there for another person,
mhm.
does that bring up any stories from either your own life or your nursing career?
Yeah, so I was giving that question a lot of thought, and I had to go back to my Aunt Sue again just because she was so inspirational. I didn't know this at the time, but I had many ear surgeries growing up as a child, and lots of tubes and scar tissue and different things in my ears that my parents were having to deal with from a very young age. And so I also got really sick from anesthesia every time I had surgery, and I was going in quite often for surgery. And I didn't know at the time, but my aunt Sue was going in with me when I was younger, and actually in the OR. And then as I got to the age where I would kind of know what was going on, she would come in after I was put to sleep. And that just relieved my parents' anxiety. And also, she was able to advocate for the medications that help you from being so sick after surgery. And I didn't know that for many years. So,
How special though to have somebody overlooking you in the
mm,
ER. And how special to know your calling in life. What did you say, 4 years old?
yes, sir. Yeah, it's toddlers. So,
Well, I was 24 before I figured out what I wanted to do.
I was surprised. I think my parents obviously always supported me, but when you're that little and thinking I'm going to do this, and then actually seeing it come true was pretty cool. So
Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
nice, nice, nice. What what kind of books are on your reading list? What kind of things do you read? Whether for I know you obviously have to do a ton of reading for work and for keeping up professional hours and all those kind of things. But what kind of books do you are on your reading list right now, or what would you suggest for people?
So currently, I do a lot of eighth grade reading with my son.
Makes sense. Yeah.
No pun intended, but I'm actually in a Christian global health care class right now. Just kind of wanted to pursue the global missions type side of nursing, and from like a Christian perspective. So I'm going through that class currently, and it has a workbook. It's called a Christian Global Health Perspective. But I was thinking, and I've got a couple other books that have really left a lasting impact on my career. And one is 5 Days at Memorial. It was about Hurricane Katrina. And I was charged to read that when I was in getting my master's in 2013 to 2015. And at the time, I was a very young nurse. And it's a book around ethical decisions and some hard decisions that Memorial Hospital had to make whenever they were faced with Hurricane Katrina. And so that one has left a lasting impact. And actually, a show came out about that maybe a year or so ago, and I watched it. And just seeing my perspective when I was a young nurse versus a couple of years under my belt, that one has really, really impacted the way I think even to this day. So I would definitely charge healthcare people to read that and consider their perspective on some very hard decisions that were made during that hurricane. So,
And you say it was a show too, a series,
yes,
or
I believe it was on Apple TV. But yeah,
okay.
the show was pretty accurate to the book, if I remember correctly. You know how shows can
Mm.
sometimes be skewed, but I was very surprised at the accuracy. So,
Excellent, excellent. That's going on my reading list.
yes, it's a very
Yeah,
good book.
thank you for that.
The first half is about like the different scenarios that were overcome, and then the last half of the book was kind of more legalities and the court stuff that came from it. So, but if anybody just has the time to read the first half, it's very impactful, I think, to the way we think in healthcare. So,
Yeah, so interesting. The perspectives 20 years ago at the time of
right,
Katrina versus
hmm
now having gone through the pandemic at the same
right,
time when a lot of other ethical decisions were made, or
absolutely,
ethical decisions had to be made.
yeah,
There's that's a lot to consider. Yeah.
sure, yeah.
So, what's one thing in nursing these days, or nursing or healthcare in general, medicine, however it is, the ecosphere of healthcare? What's something that really excites you?
For me personally, the advancements that are coming out in simulation world. So I primarily do a lot of our simulations with our undergraduate students and working with that technology. There's a lot of new mannequins that are coming out, and just I'm amazed at the technology in the last even 5 years of the field. I think back when I was a student at how minimal technology we had, and now just watching behind the scenes and getting to run mannequins in a control room, just the amazement of the technology that continues to grow. And I hope the students today realize how blessed they are to have these mannequins, and that we can really kind of bring to life scenarios before they get on to practice for them. So
And
that keeps
and
me excited.
and we should specify here what you're calling mannequins are actually highly sophisticated robots, right? That are
Yes, we can definitely go with that. So when I give a tour of my building, I like to say they can do everything but walk. So
everything
one day
but
we'll figure
walk.
out how to make them walk. So,
And I
but yeah,
remember at the conference where you and I met, I was amazed because there was not only a mannequin there who was pregnant giving birth, but there was
hmm
a baby mannequin that came out of the
right.
mannequin,
Yes,
uh, and that I found absolutely fascinating. And it's crazy to be thinking that we're living in the future with such
right.
technology at our fingertips.
It really is, and it's exciting to learn about from my perspective, and just watching the world of simulation evolve. Even talking about artificial intelligence now, VR headsets, just so many entities, and really bringing scenarios to life for students. They if they really tap into their time in school, I hope they see the blessing and the gift that they have to learn. So.
Speaking about your students, what's something that that you would impart to students that you wish you had known when you were a student?
I think for me, um, and I think I had a small glimpse of it thanks to my Aunt Sue, but that we as healthcare workers get to be and have the privilege, I would say, not even get to be, but have the privilege to be the hands and feet of Jesus while we're on earth. You never know what your patient or their family is going through. And I think that's what I love about your book, The Other End of the Stethoscope, really gives my students that perception to think on the other side of the bed. And I think I wish somebody would have said, like, hey, you can leave a lasting impact on somebody's life and not know 100% what they're going through. But your actions speak louder than your words. And like you also teach, just being like present for people and listening, especially active listening. Sometimes they don't always want you to talk to them, but just to be present and listen. I actually have my seniors do a project too, or like a mini project for class one week that before we get to your book, where I have them go sit in a parking lot, like a grocery store parking lot, and just take in what they think. They pick 5 or 6 people that are walking in and out of the grocery store, what they think is going through their mind. You know, what did they have for breakfast today? Did they struggle to get dressed? Do they have kids? What what are they going to eat for lunch? Just different thoughts, and it really gives them that processing moment of like, we don't know what actually is going on in our patient or their family or friends' lives, and so we need to meet them where they're at, as best we can. So.
That's a really cool exercise, right? It's
Mhm.
almost like writing that person's inner monologue or their backstory, and I feel like that's where so much of our, what shall I say, our prejudices, I
Mhm.
suppose, come from, is just not ever thinking about another person's backstory. And
Right.
whenever you're making your students be intentional in that moment to think about what could this person's perspective be. I mean, that's expanding perspective. That's the point of this podcast too.
Mhm. Right.
So that's great. I'm glad to hear you're doing that with your students.
Yeah, they seem to really like it, and I enjoy the reflections that they give me. They all come from a different point of view in terms of reflection, but it all boils down to like we feel bad judging them because we don't actually know what's going on, and that's kind of the whole point of the exercise is to meet somebody where they're at, regardless if you know what they're going through or not. So.
Yeah, and you said there about non-judgmental thought, right?
Mhm.
And that's one of the definitions that we use with my pre-meds is that non-judgmental awareness,
Mhm.
non-judgmental awareness as a definition for compassion.
Mhm.
But it's so hard not to judge, isn't it? I mean, it's so hard not to judge because I'm judging my surroundings right now. It's cold
Mhm.
in this room. I wish I'd worn jeans. We're constantly judging, but
Mhm.
whenever we step into that judgment, we're stepping out of compassion, and
Right.
I don't think that's where those of us who got into healthcare with the heart to help.
Right.
It's not where we want to be. It's not where we want
No.
to be.
And I often ask my students too, like the why. Why are you wanting to become a nurse, from day one all the way through graduation, and kind of see how that perception changes. But I also encourage them to never lose the why, because there's more hard days than there are good days most of the time. And if you can hang on to that why, that can change your own personal perception of why you're going to work for the day. So.
And I kind of understand your why. You're fulfilling that idea that you, as a nurse, are the hands and feet of Jesus. And so, one of the questions I like to ask guests is, if you had to give all of your worldly possessions and all your money to a philanthropy upon your death, Is there a philanthropy that sticks out, or one that you just really like to highlight?
Yeah, there's two that come to mind. I don't know if I'm allowed to have two,
Yeah,
but
sure.
the first one is Nurses Christian Fellowship. They were integral part of not only my undergraduate years, but continue to be an integral part of my story. I actually volunteer with them. They're a student and professional organization for nursing students and then professional nurses. So that one, and then my other one would be Samaritan's Purse. They help in Jesus' name is their slogan, and we integrate a good bit of their works and what their mission is throughout our curriculum. So I think I would have a toss up between those two, and what they mean to me, and what I think they could mean to the world if people tap into their mission and visions. So
Where have you done mission work?
I have had the opportunity to do a few things in my day. I actually started at 12th grade, believe it or not. I went to Costa Rica with my senior class and was not a nurse at the time, obviously, and did very minimal like medical clinic intakes and blood pressures and things that 12th graders can do. And then kind of came full circle last year. I got invited by a group of students on High Points campus to go back. And it was a full circle story and moment for me. It was with a different organization, but I got to go back to Costa Rica and be a nurse on this trip. And so it was really cool to see the people of Costa Rica again. We were in different areas and really felt like I could bring something this time in terms of medical knowledge and skill set. And just to be there with students and watch them flourish from day one to day 14 was really cool. And then hoping to go to Africa in 2026 with Samaritan's Purse and serve at a hospital in Africa for about 3 weeks.
Nice,
So yeah,
nice.
yeah.
Very good, very good. You're walking the talk,
I
walking the
try,
talk, right?
try to be that role model for students. So
That's yeah, yeah, and sons,
yes, that too.
yeah.
Yes. So.
So so if you had the ability to have the world's largest billboard on top of the world's tallest mountain, what's the message that you would want to broadcast out to humanity?
Hmm. I I'm such an athlete at heart, very competitive person, and I think back on a lot of different coaches' quotes, not only in my personal journey of athletics, but coaches that I've admired over the years and watched. And God, there's so many great quotes out there, but I'm gonna have to steal one from a coach. Coach Kay Yao, she coached NC State women's basketball for many years and has since passed. And her quote has just stuck with me for a while. And I would have to say, when life kicks you, let it kick you forward. So
Ooh, I like that.
she suffered with breast cancer for many years, and I remember I was about 16 or 17 and had went to a game when they played Wake Forest and here in Winston Salem, and was determined to meet her. She was on her fight with breast cancer, and a little young kid at the elevator waiting on her, she stopped and had a conversation with me and left me with that quote. And so I've carried that one for a long time.
Mm. Do you know if she's written that anywhere in a book or anything? Or did she
She's got,
just say that to you and that's your own?
no, it's a very famous quote. That's why I made sure I give her credit. But yeah, she's got several books out there that it's in, and probably if you typed her in on Google, it'd be one that popped up. So,
Nice, nice.
but yeah, when I hit hard times, it reminds me to just keep going forward. So
That's what we do. That's what we
yes,
do, right?
absolutely. So.
Is there anything else you'd like to share with the audience? Any organizations you'd like to point them towards, or
Probably my
anything?
philanthropies again.
Hmm.
If you're looking for a solid Christian professional or student led organization, Nurses Christian Fellowship is a great one. They have a monthly, well, yeah, bi-monthly or monthly journal, I believe it is, or every couple months one comes out. Some solid information in that, and then some really good resources if you're looking to do any studies with your friends. and then some conferences as well. And then I think Samaritan's Purse has great avenues for nurses. If your job allows for some flexibility, they have a DART team where they send out a group of nurses and healthcare workers to meet people in disasters. So if you can up and kind of leave your job for a couple weeks, that's another good one. Yeah, I mean, there's so many out there, but anything with simulation, I'm a part of. So if simulation is something that your listeners are interested in, and Axel, where you spoke, is a great organization as well as SSH. So
Yeah.
those are my top ones that I kind of tap into on a regular basis.
Well, excellent, excellent, and thank you so much for those resources and for your mission work and all of it. And we just thank you for spending some time with me today too.
Yeah, I appreciate it. It's been an honor, and I was happy to be asked, and look forward to hopefully seeing you in my class in a couple weeks. And
Yeah.
my kids are, or excuse me, my students are finishing up the other end of the stethoscope first, and then they'll move on to I'm Here. So I'm excited to see and receive their feedback on those books. But I
Yeah.
really think they leave a lasting impression. So thank you for your work in those.
Sure. And that's a fun thing for me to do, is to pop into a class whenever after students have read the book and such, and be able to answer questions and just get them to, also know that it's not the end of the story, right?
Right.
There's a lot of life that still goes on. And so, so the
Yeah, that's
story
right.
doesn't end at the hospitalization for patients.
Right. Yeah. And I really like in your books how you highlight those people that were positive, and also those that could use some improvement. I think that leaves a lasting impact on students as they start their journey to kind of remember who they want to be. So thank you for that.
Sure. That's what I get to do. That's what
Yeah.
I get to do. So,
Yeah,
well,
absolutely.
Dr. Rachel Phelps, thank you so much for being with me today,
For the
and we wish you all future success in all of your endeavors.
Thank you, and you as well, and look forward to seeing you again soon. So thank
Sounds
you for your
great.
time. I appreciate it.
Thank you. And listeners, thank you for being on this episode of Compassion and Courage, Conversations in Healthcare. I'm your host, Marcus Engel, and this is the podcast where we teach compassionate communication, provide perspective, and inspire resilience. Coming up, it is Patient Experience Week, it's Hospitals Week, it's Nurses Week. Please reach out via marcusengel.com for keynote speaking needs or compassion consulting. Thank you all again for being part of this episode of Compassion and Courage.